Hi, welcome to the video. Make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoy, and comment your thoughts and opinions on the stories. Let's get started. Am I the antagonist for telling a friend her expectations of a partner are batshit insane? Our group of friends has known each other for the better part of our lives. We're all in our late 20s and early 30s. And honestly, everyone has a lot to do these days. With each having chosen a different career path, we don't meet that often anymore. However, we try to meet at least once every 2 or 3 months. Unfortunately, I have not been able to be at present as often in the last few gatherings. I founded a company in the tech industry years ago, and work my ass off to make sure it succeeds. Thus, my schedule isn't really that flexible, causing me to not be able to be present in these social events. I managed to free some time and actually went to their last event. Nothing out of the ordinary, just a simple dinner party. We were having a pleasurable time, talking, laughing and just spending some good time. When a friend asked me why I could not come to the other meetings, I explained the situation, and suddenly this woman started to talk over us. She said that she would never date someone who worked so much, not that anyone asked her, and proceeded to talk about her ideal partner, something still no one asked for. How the man had to, and I quote, be successful in his career, be fit and healthy, be a gentleman and always shower her with presents, but she also said he needs to spend a lot of time with me and not be over focused on himself, always thinking of me first. Now, this doesn't seem like bad standards, right? Thing is, she said more, I just don't think I should write it. First, I don't think anyone who wants to be successful in their career will have tons of time to spend with their partner, especially if they need to be fit. Understand fit in the context of bodybuilding Instagrammers. And the part about the gifts just made me shiver. I admit, I should have just laughed it off or smiled it off, but I just spoke without realizing. That's batshit insane. You can assume she was extremely offended by that. I tried to explain that I didn't think anyone in this world fits that criteria, but it was just my thoughts, and she shouldn't care about them. But the damage was done. These past few days, I have been told by more than one of my friends she has been bad-mouthing me, which is understandable, as I should have kept my mouth shut. Regardless, what is done, but I don't think I was that much of an asshole given the situation. I mean, she spoke over us, was rude, and honestly, I still think she was batshit insane. That being said, I'm trying to decide how much of an asshole I was here. Apologizing is definitely the best way, but I would be lying if I said I would be honest with it. Thus, I wanted to ask Reddit your thoughts. She simply became upset when you challenged her. What she intends to contribute to a relationship with her standards NTA has me genuinely wondering. Don't apologize for labeling her beliefs batshit nuts, as that was where you went too far. Comment by team member Jordan. Now for the top comments. NTA. I'm a woman and I agree completely that her demands for her partner are indeed batshit insane. I'm going to take a wild guess here and assume she's single. I'm curious now about what else she said, lol. So she's looking for someone extremely wealthy that doesn't work too much while having the time to work out regularly, but all of that must take second place to her and all her wants always coming first, as well as being showered with gifts and attention. How is she not having men lined up for her? Sarcasm. So she's looking for someone extremely wealthy that doesn't work too much while having the time to work out regularly, but all of that must take second place to her and all her wants always coming first, as well as being showered with gifts and attention. The only type of men that could meet those criteria are those who live off a trust fund and probably chooses to work when they want to. She probably doesn't know. Those type of men probably prefer women who put them first. NTA. I really don't think that was the worst thing you cold said. She spoke over you guys and threw in a conversation no one asked for. Sure, 2 wrongs don't make a right, but I don't think this is particularly asshole. Why? It's your opinion on those standards. No, if she didn't want commentary on it, she wouldn't have spoken up in the first place. NTA. She essentially volunteered that she'd never date someone like you. Am I the antagonist for exposing my cousin's creepy husband to my entire family? I, 22F, met my cousin's husband, 24F and 26 male, last July for their wedding. They live several states away, so in addition to meeting him for the first time, it was also the first time I had seen my cousin in a few years. I instantly got a bad vibe from him, and he made several comments that rubbed me the wrong way. He told me I seemed like a wild child and said he would bet I'm a bad girl at my college. Since meeting him, he has followed me on Instagram and sporadically sends me reels, which I don't open, and comments odd things on my posts, like looking good cousin. He even DM'd me once, hey, I'll be in your state this weekend on Busan SLL, which I never opened either. All of this definitely creeped me out, but I didn't feel like I could say anything about it because my cousin and I aren't close, and I've always felt like she looks down on me because she is a devout Christian and I'm not. Fast forward to this week. One of those fake accounts on Instagram popped up with some of my pictures asking for money for X-rated pictures. The bio was in broken English. The pictures were poorly cropped screenshots of my 2 most recent posts, and the cash app was random string of numbers and letters. The account just looked very fake, and many of my friends sent it to me and reported the account. Of course, the one person who apparently fell for it was my cousin's husband. I then got a very long, nasty DM from my cousin telling me she had been very tolerant of my sinful lifestyle, whatever that means, but this time I had gone too far. She said she didn't care that we were family, and so long as I was posing a threat to her marriage, I was no longer welcome in their lives. I calmly and politely responded that this account was not me and that I had already reported the account to Instagram to be taken down, and I apologized for the apparent disruption to her day. She responded that she didn't believe me and said she pities me for having such low self-esteem and would keep me in her prayers. I lost it at this point. I called her stupid for falling for an account that was so obviously fake and said that her husband was such a blatant creep it was embarrassing she even married him. I sent screenshots of the months of DMs from him that I never responded to and concluded by saying, if your marriage is so easily threatened, get a divorce. Don't take your insecurities out on me. Shortly after, I got angry phone calls from my mom and my grandma saying my cousin made an honest mistake and that my response was cruel and unjustified. Apparently my cousin showed everyone our messages and is humiliated by what I said. My mom is worried our relationship with that side of the family is permanently damaged, and now I may not be welcome at future family gatherings because my grandmama doesn't want the drama. I really don't feel like my response was out of line. But since no one else agrees with me, I'm not sure. So, am I the antagonist? She insulted you, and in a very Christian turn the other cheek fashion, you responded by providing useful details about her husband. Even the timing is perfect, because she said that she was breaking off their relationship, so you wouldn't be able to do that in the future. Comment by team member Cody. Now for the top comments. NTA. Your cousin started the drama by being gullible and dumb and was a total RTU. She deserved to be called on it, and she will be much better off knowing what her husband is. Then she shared that her husband is a thirsty hornball and says that she's embarrassed. Op kept it between the two of them. Cousin embarrassed herself. NTA, you're going to be blamed for everything. Your stupid cousin and her creep husband are the assholes here, but they will spin it that you are the problem. That's the reason I never mentioned his creepy behavior sooner. I was worried I would be blamed. You were absolutely right. I've been contacted by guys off Tinder, and when I've contacted their girlfriends, I come from a small town, I was blamed. Your cousin is married to a massive creep and she's blaming you because it's easier to blame you. You have done nothing wrong. I just remembered when I saw my cousin's boyfriend on Tinder. When I told my cousin I received some nasty messages blaming me and defending my cousin's boyfriend. They were totally overreacting to the situation. The guy had cropped out my cousin from pictures that he used for Tinder. But that was my fault. I was ostracized after that and told I was looking for drama. Am I the antagonist for telling my wife to clear plates and do the dishes at a family event? The title sounds horrible, but I think I'm in the right. I'm 34 male, from a non-Western, developed country, think Japan, that has the equivalent of American Thanksgiving about twice a year. It's pretty standard for extended families to get together and have a long, massive meal on the day of the holiday. Normally food prep starts a day or two before. Now, my extended family is traditional in that it was usually the adult women's job to prepare the food, set the table, etc. Is this patriarchal and sexist? I 100% agree. From my generation on, all of my cousins and I have always fully helped out with the work. Honestly, it's just mostly us doing everything, while moms and aunts will chat in the kitchen. Our parents' uncles aunts think it's interesting that gender roles are changing and have encouraged it. That doesn't mean that dads, uncles have suddenly started helping out, but they are dudes in their late 60s, 70s. So my cousins and I haven't pushed the issue. We get together twice a year and our parents are getting older. It never seemed worth it. My wife, 29F, and I got married last year, and it was her first time coming to the family event. I met her while doing my masters in the US. So she's not from the same country, but speaks the language pretty well as she's a second generation immigrant. I told her how the holiday logistics usually played out. She was really unhappy with it. Perfectly understandable. So I made the following offer. She didn't have to help out with the food prep at all. I would go alone, and she could just spend the 2 days doing her own thing. All I asked was that on the day of the holiday, she help out with what my cousins and I are doing. If this wasn't okay, I'd just rather skip the holidays, as I didn't want to put unnecessary pressure on her or make things awkward for my family. She said okay, we fly in. My wife spends the 2 days traveling as agreed while I go and do food prep. My cousins who were married all came with their SOs, but nobody asked where my wife was. I guess they had a hunch, and we had a good time cooking together. On the day of the holiday, my wife sits down at the table and doesn't do anything. Like, she was making conversation and being outgoing. She just wasn't doing any of the work. After dinner, I sent her a text asking to please help out with the dishes. She replied saying no, that she wouldn't help unless the older men did as well. I didn't want to make a scene, so just didn't push the issue. Once we were back, I was honestly really disappointed and upset. Nobody in my family brought it up. My mom and dad both texted saying they had a wonderful time and that they appreciated us taking the time to come. But we had a deal, and my cousins, their SOs, and I were all participating in the work. Was it really worth taking a stand to send a message to 5 old dudes? Am I the antagonist? // English is my second language, so apologies in advance if the writing isn't up to paragraph. Since the day I met my wife 35 years ago, I've been cleaning the dishes after meals. It's arrogant of your wife to say that she won't help at all because the older generation isn't on board. She could have shown her disapproval in other ways, but she owed it to the people who were assisting. Comment by team member Corey. Now for the top comments. She agreed to help, then didn't, and wants to use I'm making a stand against gender roles as an excuse? Nope. NTA. I'm definition gonna be using this as an excuse in future. NTA op. Gender roles aside, it's polite and just plain common decency to help out, especially when she said she would. NTA 2 wrongs don't make a right. Just because the old men are being a-holes doesn't make it okay for her to be an a-hole as well. Even more so, because she agreed to help. Agreed. And at this point, it's less gender roles and more they're rolled. Everyone, men and women, were helping to cook and clean. Minus the 5 grandpas sitting down. Once they are dead, then she'll help. Her excuse to do nothing is gone. She's making a non-existent point. Just makes her look lazy and uncultured at that point. TBH, it sounds like all the aunties were chilling as well, so the labor divide was definitely across age lines rather than gender. Just as it should be. Am I the antagonist for having a vegetarian menu at my wedding? Me, 30F, and my partner, 30 male, are getting married next September and are in the early stages of planning. We have been vegetarian for a while now and would like to incorporate this into our day so we can eat everything on offer. We met with the caterers yesterday and created a menu that includes loads of delicious food that we love and will enjoy. Nothing unusual, and have 2 choices for each course. My family especially seem outraged at the prospect of no meat being included and are arguing that we need to think about what our guests want. I feel like I have lived on sides at restaurants many times, and I should be allowed to have one day where I can eat food I enjoy and others can too. I've said that people can have a bacon sunny before the wedding if it's that big of a deal, and it won't harm anyone to go for one meal without meat. I feel like I'm going to be arguing about this with my family for the next 12 months. Am I the antagonist? There is no legal requirement for vegetarians to consume meat at every meal. The dance floor at the one vegetarian wedding I've ever attended was completely covered in farts. Meals that are vegetarian are just as filling and delicious as those that are meat-based. Comment by team member Alex. Now for the top comments. NTA. If you had a 100% meat-only menu, that might exclude folks from being able to eat. This is not that. Meat eaters won't die if they have one meal without meat in it. I'm speaking from experience. I once ate a salad for lunch and didn't die, so I know it'll be okay. It's amazing how upset people get over intentionally vegetarian meals while remaining completely unaware of all the accidentally vegetarian meals they've probably eaten in their lives. I swear, do people never have an apple or a salad for lunch? I'm a complete carnivore and I've totally just had a meatless salad or a big bowl of garlic broccoli for a meal many times. I worked from home, don't come for me about broccoli on lunch. NTA. Big bowl of broccoli slightly charred with zesty, spicy, creamy peanut sauce drizzled on top. Sauteed broccoli, extra garlic, just barely steamed broccoli to dip in sweet and sour sauce and crunch on. Broccoli fritters, cooked and chilled broccoli with a squeeze of olive oil, lime and salt. Broccoli stir fry, extra ginger, roasted broccoli with pesto. The bubble blow of broccoli. NTA. Vegetarian meals can be awesome and I love weddings as it's a chance to try food I might not get elsewhere. As was mentioned earlier, just make sure anything with a common allergen, i.e. nuts, is labeled so people know. Am I the antagonist? Wife doesn't lock her car. Ever. Throwaway account. Anyway, my wife doesn't lock her car. Anywhere. Anytime. It doesn't matter. Dealing with your stuff being stolen or tampered with is apparently less of a hassle than clicking a button. Whatever. She has her things. I have mine. Despite the fact that it drives me crazy, it has never inconvenienced me. And BTW. She has had her car broken into multiple times. She still doesn't lock it. I've told my wife many times that should anything happen while her car is unlocked, including the theft of said car, she's on her own. I told her not to call me for a ride or expect for me to drive her around trying to get stuff back. If it were convenient for me, she could perhaps borrow my car should hers get stolen. But otherwise, find someone else to clean up the mess you so desperately crave to make. Well, last weekend, exactly what I always knew would happen happened. She was visiting friends in a kind of shitty neighborhood, didn't have her car locked, and what do you know? It got stolen. Aside from the car being stolen, she had quite a bit of work property as well as personal effects stolen. Car still hasn't been found, and even if it is, it's likely to not have anything left inside. I stood true to my word. I refused to come pick her up. I refused to bring her to the police department to file a report. I refused to help her at all. She used my car briefly the other day when I was off from work, but other than that, she's on her own. I feel justified because it's a conversation we've had 100 times. But now her friends and our families are both making me out to be an asshole. Like it's my fault she has to deal with the consequences of her own stupidity. The thing is, whenever this issue is resolved in whatever way it does get resolved, I can almost guarantee she still won't lock her car. Anyway, am I the asshole for sticking true to my word after my wife's car got stolen because she refuses to lock the doors? Edit. I didn't leave my wife stranded. She was outside a friend's place with another friend. The friend who lived there drove them both hand. I won't leave my wife alone on the side of the road in a shitty neighborhood. I'm not that much of a cold-hearted bastard, lol. Edit #2. I think most of the comments point to me not being the asshole. But I also see the point people made about being there to help your wife and not being petty. She filed a police report, but I don't know how much they can possibly do. We live just outside a big city in the Midwest with reasonably high rates of crime. She contacted her insurance, but I have no idea how that's going to pan out. I've decided to help her. I'll drive her where she needs to go, do all my husbandly duties, and I apologized for being a dick. I get it. I'm her husband, not her parent, and despite being right, I feel like an ass having held it against her. Hopefully she learned her lesson, as she is remorseful, but I'm still not 100% convinced she will start locking her car. My automobile locks itself on command. What in the world makes you think she would lock yours if she can't lock hers? NTA entirely. She is an adult. You are lending her your automobile, rather than accompanying her to the police station to report it. Comment by team member Taylor. Now for the top comments. NTA. I have no patience for people who willfully don't lock their shit. Sure, I have less patience for thieves, but I don't hang out with thieves. Depends. I know of a strategy to leave your car unlocked in shitty areas, because it will be broken into regardless. You might as well save your windows. But with that, you leave nothing, not even a penny, in it. Obviously. This exactly. I hear this advice a lot. Leave your doors unlocked in bad neighborhoods, because they're going to break in anyway. But that's the second piece of advice. The first is, don't leave anything in your car. You're supposed to be minimizing your damages, not making life easier for the thieves. Nope, not the how your wife refused to do something for her own good that you mentioned several times and now she's paying for it. She wants to be an idiot. She doesn't get to come crying to you when the inevitable happens. Fuck around and find out kind of applies here. I'm hella confused right now. Has no one here ever had their locked car stolen? Y'all ain't from Miami, LMAO. Am I the antagonist for wanting to go somewhere while my wife is almost due? Now, I fully understand how the title sounds, and I've seen posts like this from the wife's point of view. But please hear me out. My wife is really close to giving birth, and we are both super excited to welcome our baby girl into this world. However, the issue is the fact that my 92-year-old grandfather is sick and will most likely pass on in the next week or so. He has been one of the kindest, best, and coolest people I've known, and he had a huge hand in raising me. So I want to fly over there in a couple of days to say goodbye and attend his funeral. My wife feels that this isn't as important than seeing the birth of my daughter should she go into labor while I'm gone. And while I know that the birth is extremely important, but I really want to say goodbye, and this can't wait. So am I the antagonist? Edit. Some of you asked when she is due, and that isn't for around 2 weeks. What I'm thinking of doing now is to take the car this evening. It's a 5-hour drive. Say goodbye tomorrow and come home in the afternoon. I will Zoom for the funeral. You are alright. My wife is the most important person. Edit 2. Hi guys. Thanks for the support on this post. I took today off and started driving to my grandfather's town around 2.5 hours ago. My wife is at home with my sister-in-law and mother-in-law, and my brother-in-law and her best friend live 5 minutes away from her. So she's fine. She was really happy about this compromise and gave me her go-ahead since she knows how close I was to my grandpa. I'm at a rest stop for lunch right now, and the plan is to get there around 5 in the evening, talk to my grandfather and say goodbye to him, then drive back home and be there around 12 AM. I was actually speaking to my wife and mother-in-law, and they said it would be really nice if my grandfather picked out my daughter's name as a sort of connection to him for her after he passes on. Thanks. Edit 3. I talked to my grandfather. It was super emotional to say the least, but it seemed like he really enjoyed it, as did I. I asked him about naming my daughter, and though he refused and said it wasn't his place at first, he eventually gave us our baby girl's name, Madeline Rose, after my grandma and great-grandma respectfully. I'm going back home now, but it seems like my grandpa is going to go pretty soon. I'm glad I got to say goodbye at least. Thanks. I would visit my grandfather as soon as possible, not in a few days, and spend some time with him before returning home to be with my wife. You should be able to accomplish that quite quickly and avoid significantly missing the birth unless the travel time is considerable. Comment by team member Cody. Now for the top comments. Now don't wait a couple of days. fly there now. Visit with him while he's still well enough to recognize you. And fly right home. Don't stay for the funeral. Life is more important than death. You've got a baby coming. People will understand, and those that won't aren't worth your time. That's what I plan to do. Thanks. You need a contingency plan. Babies to come early. Edit. Baby could come now and would actually not be considered early at all. Your wife has a non-zero chance of serious complications, trauma, and even death during delivery, as does your child. If she goes into labor while you are there, what is the plan for you to safely get back? No. Driving as quickly as you think you safely can the 5 hours back is not a great choice. You being in a hospital after a car accident also means not being there. I do think seeing your grandfather is important, but you need to know exactly what to do if things go sideways ahead of time, and your wife needs the reassurance of what the plan is as well. Info: define really close to giving birth. 2 weeks. So really it could happen at any moment. Babies rarely come on their due date. Nah, neither can wait. I'd, personally, stay and Zoom grandfather. I don't think anyone's enough here. But I agree with you /Fainora //. I think your impression of childbirth is faulty. It's not the life that AITA movies /TV have made it out to be. Your wife needs you there. Your grandfather doesn't.